Give me a few minutes and I'll delete your fear of rejection. Not just talk about it, not just give you motivational fluff, but actually help you dismantle that invisible wall in your chest that's kept you from saying what you want, doing what matters, or showing up as who you really are. Because let's face it, rejection doesn't just hurt, it shrinks you. It rewires your behavior, dims your self-expression, and before you know it, you're living your life with the volume turned down. But what if I told you that fear of rejection isn't actually fear of rejection? It's fear of disconnection. At our core, we are social creatures. Rejection taps into a primal threat. Being cast out of the tribe meant death 100,000 years ago. Your brain still reacts like it's about to get eaten by a saber-toothed tiger every time someone ghosts you, criticizes you, or even raises an eyebrow when you say something bold. But here's the truth. Most of the pain we associate with rejection doesn't come from the rejection itself, but from a meaning we attach to it. Think about it. Someone says no, and instantly your mind spins it into I'm not good enough, I'll always be alone, I'm messed up again. But that story? That's optional. Now here's the crazy part. Scientific studies using fMRI scans have shown that the brain processes social rejection almost identically to physical pain. That's why it feels so visceral, so raw. But unlike physical pain, the psychological sting of rejection can be rewired. And we're about to do that right here, right now. Let me tell you a quick story. A client of mine, let's call him James, was a ridiculously talented musician. He had tracks sitting on his hard drive that could have been hits, but he never released them. Why? Because the idea of someone leaving a negative comment or ignoring his work crushed him before it even happened. So he did what most people do. He avoided. He played it safe. He lived in potential rather than progress. Sound familiar? But here's the shift. When we dug deeper, James realized he wasn't afraid of rejection. He was afraid of the identity crisis rejection would trigger. If his music was ignored, that meant maybe he wasn't who he thought he was. And when you tie your worth to outcomes, rejection becomes an existential threat. So we rewired it. How? One powerful exercise I gave him, and you can try this too, is something called micro-rejections. For 1 week, I had him purposely seek out small rejections every day. Ask for a discount at Starbucks. Pitch a playlist to a curator who might say no. DM someone intimidating. Why? Because the brain builds tolerance through exposure. Each time you voluntarily step into potential rejection, you build emotional calluses. The fear gets smaller. And more importantly, you start realizing that your worth isn't tied to the response. You gain separation between you and the outcome. That's where freedom begins. And if you're finding this helpful so far, consider hitting the like button or subscribing. It tells me that you value content that doesn't just inspire, but actually transforms. Plus, I'll be posting more deep dive videos like this every week, and I'd love to have you with me. Now, let's get into something most people overlook: the difference between perceived rejection and actual rejection. Perceived rejection is when someone doesn't text back in 2 hours and you spiral. Actual rejection is when someone communicates a clear no. Here's the kicker. Most of the rejection we experience isn't even real, our brain invents it. It fills in blanks with worst-case narratives. A study by Dr. Guy Winch, a psychologist who specializes in emotional injuries, found that most people overestimate how negatively others perceive them. That's called the spotlight effect. You think people are paying way more attention to your mistakes, your awkward moments, your risks, than they really are. So the first real skill is this: reality testing. When you feel rejected, pause and ask, what actually happened? Did they reject me? Or did they just not have a bandwidth? Did they say no? Or did I just not get the response I wanted? This creates space between the event and the emotion. That space is everything. Let me give you something even deeper now. The psychological framework called internal versus external locus of control. People who suffer most from rejection often have an external locus of control. They believe other people's opinions define them. But people who are resilient, they have an internal locus. They define their worth based on their own values, actions, and self-respect. That doesn't mean being arrogant or closed off. It means choosing to be the author of your self-worth, not outsourcing it to others. Here's a real tactic. Every time you're rejected, or even fear being rejected, Ask yourself 3 questions. 1. What did I risk by showing up? 2. What did I learn from this experience? 3. What part of my identity am I protecting? These questions move you from emotional reaction to cognitive reflection, and that shift from limbic, emotional brain to prefrontal, logical brain is where transformation begins. Another truth: rejection isn't a sign you did something wrong. It's often a sign you're doing something right. You're pushing edges, expanding comfort zones, asking for more. In fact, Jia Jiang, author of Rejection Proof, did a 100-day challenge where he purposely got rejected every day, from asking to make announcements on flights to borrowing $100 from strangers. The result? His confidence skyrocketed. Why? Because he realized that rejection is rarely personal and almost never fatal. In fact, he got more yes than he ever expected, simply because he asked. Imagine what you could unlock in your life if rejection stopped being a threat and started becoming a metric of growth. Every no is proof you're in the arena. Most people never even enter it. And if you really want to go next level, reframe rejection as data. Every rejection gives you insight. If you pitch something and it doesn't land, ask, what could I clarify? Where did I lose connection? How might I improve delivery? Don't use rejection as a verdict. Use it as a dashboard. It's feedback. It's refinement. It's a mirror, not a scar. And lastly, your fear of rejection will never fully disappear. That's not the goal. The goal is to build a bigger life than the fear. Confidence is not the absence of fear. It's the decision that this matters more, that you matter more. So the next time fear whispers, what if they don't like me? You get to respond, I like me enough to try anyway. Because at the end of the day, rejection isn't a wall, it's a doorway. And the life you want, the relationships, the career, the creative expression, the love, it's on the other side of a few awkward conversations, a few bold asks, and yes, a few rejections. But that's okay, because now you know how to face them. Now you know the fear isn't final. You don't need to be fearless. You just need to be free. So take the shot. Send the message. Share the thing. Let the no-s come. Because every no is just another step closer to the yes that actually matters. And that is how you delete your fear of rejection. By replacing it with something stronger. Your courage, your clarity, and your commitment to showing up as who you really are, no matter what they say.